Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Flood, who is also the chair of the Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Inspector General Begg, as the chairman of the Housing and Insurance Subcommittee, I have significant interest in the operations of HUD and their efficiency. We need to ensure that HUD has strong processes in place to track funds once they're dispersed and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, and I appreciate your work in outlining some of the key challenges with the agency. I'd like to focus on one program you mentioned as needing greater oversight. That's the CDBG Disaster Relief Program. Given the prevalence of several large weather events and increased congressional conversation on DR funding, additional financial support, can you speak to the oversight challenges that persist at the block grant and sub-grantee level for DR recipients?
Thank you for the question. As you mentioned, disasters are occurring more frequently, and they will continue to occur more frequently. This program has grown exponentially in recent years, and the HUD systems and processes in place were not designed to oversee the DR program in the same way that it was designed to see the regular CDBG entitlement program. The department's done many things to try and make up for that gap. The universal notice that they published helped streamline the processes, and HUD's done everything within their control that they can to try to tighten up the timeliness in which funding flows out. But the system limitations and the lack of a regulatory, statutory framework for the program still create a lot of risks in terms of what data is available to know whether it's working, and how can we be sure that the streamlining is going to be in place when it can change over time if it's simply a HUD notice.
So is HUD, in your opinion, do they have like a robust fraud, waste, abuse management effort to make sure those things aren't happening? Is there a system in place to ensure these dollars aren't being wasted?
In the disaster recovery program, we think they have room to improve. The Community Planning and Development Program Office does have a fraud risk specialist. They have expressed interest in working with us more on fraud risk, but they still have not assessed their particular fraud risks in that program and then come up with corrective actions to mitigate those and required grantees to do the same. So taking those first steps are really key in our opinion.
So in your prior testimony, you highlighted an instance where the Puerto Rico Department of Housing did not implement sufficient fraud risk management processes on $20 billion of HUD funding they received for disaster recovery and mitigation. It's remarkable to me that $20 billion could be awarded if the grantee doesn't have basic processes in place around managing fraud risks. I think you've answered this question, but is there a need for uniform processes around fraud risk management? And more importantly, would congressional authorization of the CDBG DR program be helpful in potentially establishing some uniform requirements for dealing with fraud?
I think the answer to both is yes. Permanent authorization is not necessarily a silver bullet to all the challenges in the program, but it would help in going a long way to standardize and reduce the variance in programs, which it does, in fact, contribute to the fraud risk.
Have you ever put together kind of some guidelines or ideas about what that authorization should look like from the DR perspective?
We've worked with various members over the years to provide technical assistance. We'd be happy to work with your office in doing that.
I would encourage you to reach out to Mr. Bliemptis in my office, because this is something I want to focus on, and I think the ranking member also knows it's an issue. Moving to the Home Investment Partnership Program, the ranking member, Mr. Cleaver, and I are working on reauthorizing that. Have you in your work seen any challenges unique to oversight of the home program that you'd like to highlight?
Many of the challenges that we've seen with respect to home are kind of common grants management challenges, data limitations, more kind of standard that we see across CPD programs. What I can say is we know that the home program is incredibly important to the stakeholders, and the flexibilities it provides in creating solutions is very valuable.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for your work on behalf of the American people. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.